Oh, my name's Doug Rawlings. I am a founding member of Veterans for Peace. We are here celebrating our 25th anniversary. Thanks for listening to Punk Patriot Radio.
Who are you, and why should we care?
My name's Doug Rawlings, and you shouldn't care at all. However, as a member of Veterans for Peace, which is a wonderful, incredible organization, you should care a lot, because we're 5,000 strong, and we're going to bring an end to war in this country. I'm not the important one. Who gives a shit about me?
How did VFP start?
Started 25 years ago with 6 of us meeting and deciding we had to use our experiences as veterans to speak out against war and stop the green machine, the war machine, from carrying on. So our concern then were the wars in Central America and El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras. And many of our members had been there and come back, and were very concerned about what was going on. So,
for people in my generation, we were playing in sandboxes during that time. So could you maybe talk a little bit about what was going on in Central America?
The same thing that went on in Vietnam, the same thing is going on in Afghanistan and Iraq. Occupation of these countries by our proxy forces or also by the American Army. And our idea was to, hey, Michael Yule. Okay, never mind. Anyways, our idea was to call attention to the fact that innocent civilians were being slaughtered by people who were trained by us, using weapons made by us and supported by troops from our families and stuff, and we wanted to call it into that.
What was the Iran-Contra Scandal?
That was when the Reagan, trying to get into office, actually used funds gotten by selling weapons to Iran to arm the Contras fighting in Nicaragua, because there was, I think it was called the Bolger Amendment, had come through Congress, where they said we can no longer, the United States will no longer financially support the Contras. So for Reagan to get around that, he got this guy Ollie North and a couple of his other buddies, Colonel Ollie North, to work.
Wait, the guy from Fox News?
Yeah, I think he is on Fox News. I don't watch Fox News, so yeah, Ollie North, right? He's the Marine, the hero, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the big guy.
Yeah.
He was actually selling weapons to the Iranians so he can get money to pay for the Contras. So he was arming people who we were supposedly fighting against, because of course we were supporting Iraq in the Iranian war back then.
Well, I thought we've always been at war with Iraq.
You haven't seen the famous picture of Donald Rumsfeld shaking the hands of Saddam Hussein, have you?
No, or if I did, I conveniently forgot.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're, the big brouhaha about he gassed his own people. Well, we know that, of course, because we sold them the gas. Follow the receipts.
If you could be a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
I would be a weeping willow.
And as a follow-up question, why does that tree hate America so much? What are your thoughts about the recent Wikileaks thing?
Oh, I think it's an incredible, great move, and I support Daniel Ellsberg, who has referred to that as a heroic event, and we of course know Daniel Ellsberg in the Pentagon Papers. So I think it's the right thing to do. We're a democracy. Everything should be transparent, and we should find out what the hell's going on. None of it, by the way, of course, is aiding and abetting the so-called enemy. It's old news. I mean, you don't have to tell an Afghan villager there's a convoy coming through his village, right? He didn't read that in the paper. He knows that, so it's ridiculous. So I think it's a wonderful thing that we're getting that stuff out.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Did you hear that the war in Iraq is over?
Yeah, isn't that great news, right?
Yeah, so can you disband now, or?
Yeah, right. I mean, shoot, yeah, I mean, except for the 50,000 American troops that are still over there.
Yeah, but they're non-combat.
Yeah, they're non-combat. Right? The mortars are not going to fall on them, the rockets aren't going to fall on them, and stuff like that. So obviously it's an absurd statement to think that, right? And it's not over anyways. Even if every American troop were out of Iraq, it would not be over, because the Iraqi people are suffering from what we've done to them. That war is not over. It won't be over in your generation's time, probably in my granddaughter's generation. It'll still be going on.
Do you know, when are we going, after we pull out the troops, when are we going to pull out the McDonald's and Starbucks and Carl's Jr.'s?
Never. Are you kidding me? That's America. That's part of the invasion, right? Yeah, they're the troops left remaining. So we're never going to pull those out, right?
No, for me, like, I watch the news and then I'm like, oh man, that sucks. Well, time to go to work. What should I be doing?
Well, I suppose you should be doing something different than what we usually do. My generation does. But if it's very difficult for me to answer that because actually I'm not doing what I think we should be doing. We should be out on the streets. It should not be business not as usual. We should be, as David Cobb said yesterday, one of our presentations, we should be standing there with our arms crossed and saying, we're not working anymore. We're going to boycott. We're going to stop this machine until you stop supporting war. And taxes and stuff like that, so through our taxes and stuff. So I think what we really have to do, if we're really serious about this thing, is we shut business down, right? And close it all down and refuse to do anything until they actually stop those wars, which is very difficult to do, right? It's really hard, you know. And here I am. You can tell we're standing in this hotel. You know, I'm a man of privilege, you know. So the hardest thing for us to do in the middle class is to give up our privilege, right? And you know, I'd be hypocritical if I said I'm going to do it. You know, I'm not. I'm not going to give up my privilege. I'm going to retire in a couple of years. I don't want to give that up. So.
Okay, so then your answer, your answer is I should do nothing.
No, it's not that at all. We should all grow tall. We should get a little bit more spine in our bodies, and we should actually do everything. We should stop. You know, I was part of a group called, we occupied Senator Snow's office, right, and Senator Collins' office as well, and we were arrested for doing that. And when we had the usual opportunity, we've been arrested a few times, we had the usual opportunity of doing, you know, community service and all that stuff. And, you know, we stiffened our spines a little bit, and we said, no, we want to go to trial. And they said, well, you know, Jesus, you'll get 6 months in jail, $2,000 fine, blah, blah, blah. And we said, no, we want to go to trial. We want to bring it before the people, right? We want a jury of our peers. And we did. And they found us innocent. You know, even though we had committed acts of civil disobedience, we were guilty as hell. We occupied an office in a federal building and all that happy shit. But the jury was able to hear our testimony, which the judge allowed us to give, which is saying we think the war in Iraq is much more important and much more devastating than blocking an entrance to a federal building and stuff like that. And the jury heard us, and they found us innocent.
In that trial, did they find the war in Iraq guilty?
They did, in fact. That was the beauty of it. The jury members talked to us afterwards, and young and old and whatnot. And first of all, we were very touched because they said, we learned a lot about that Iraq war from you guys, right? And, you know, as veterans, and two of us were veterans, right? And we testified. You know, I wanted to read the names of main citizens killed in that war and that kind of stuff. And so that's what we brought home to them. And they heard us, and that's exactly what they said. The war is guilty. They do not want the war anymore.
Do you think that there are political avenues forward from here?
Political avenues forward from here, yes. You know, I think bring the war dollars home stuff that's been started here in the state of Maine is now taken, I think, roots around a number of different states. Yes, you go to your congressional representatives, that's where the money is, and you occupy their offices and you show them again and again and again that the people that have elected them do not want that war machine continuing forward. Stop it, and if we can stop the money flowing through Congress that way, we'll stop it. You have to hit them in their wallets, and we have to tell them that, you know, we're not going to support you unless you stop voting for these budgets.
Why is it, do you think, that people who have political power enjoy killing people around the world so much?
Because I don't think, I am a shameless optimist in many ways, and I have great faith in human nature. I don't think they draw the connections. That's the importance of Veterans for Peace, because we've been at war. We can come back and make those connections and say what what you're voting for now ends up in the death of a 3-year-old baby, all right, or a mother and stuff like. We've seen it, okay, and we say that you've got to make that connection. That's what you're arming. You're not defending the country. You're not saving the world for democracy. You're killing innocent human beings, and I don't think they really know that. I honestly don't.
Senator Collins on a Veterans Day a while ago gave a speech, and she was talking about how war forges boys into men and stuff like that. What do you think of that sort of rhetoric?
Oh, I think it's atrocious, and I think it's absurd, okay? We don't have to do that, right? I mean, many other cultures and traditions have a means of acknowledging when a boy becomes a man, all right? Unfortunately, our culture doesn't do that. It usually happens, and it happened in my generation and probably in yours, that boys think they become men by joining the military, right? And then which is absolutely, totally absurd, okay? And by the way, you don't become a man by learning how to follow orders and how to be automaton and not think for yourself. You don't become a man by giving up your moral powers, which is what the military takes away from you, right? So you give up your moral autonomy. You're not a man. Okay, you're a robot, if you will. And Thoreau said that way back in his essay on civil disobedience, right? So.
Do you know like what all the different workshops that have been going on here are, and could you maybe talk about some of those?
Sure. I mean, we've got, okay, right off the top, we had 32 workshops going on, right? We had one on PTSD, non-invasive treatments for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. We had another man present a workshop on hiking the Appalachian Trail he's a Vietnam veteran, as a means of getting rid of his demons, and then he used that as a fundraiser, and he's raising money, and he's providing scholarships for high school students who are writing pledges of war and pledges of peace, excuse me, and against yeah, sorry, and against and for nonviolence. We've had guys from California who are media experts talking to us about how we can use the media to our advantage, and how to answer questions from not supportive media members like Fox News and stuff like that, how to actually use that and turn it around, which I thought was a fascinating idea. There was a wonderful workshop on 4 or 5 of our members who went to Vietnam just recently, a couple months ago, for Agent Orange, to interview and work with Agent Orange victims. Vietnamese people were really concerned about how the Vietnamese have been impacted by Agent Orange, and so they had a chance to go back into the villages and get off of the main route and talk to people and see how horrible situations are. But they have no, I mean, we talk about us not having any health system. They have no health system. So if you can imagine, having a child who was born with a number of incredible deformities and no support at all, and they've had to take care of those kids. So we've got people over there, and we're bringing that message back, and we're trying to get the United States to own up to what we've done to that country and pay the reparations and help the Agent Orange victims. So that was another workshop. Good Lord. We had Colonel Ann Wright here talking about military sexual trauma, talking about all the horrible things that are happening to the women in the military in Iraq and Afghanistan, the rapes. We had another woman, Penny Coleman, who's written a play and written a book about post-traumatic stress disorder and suicides among veterans. Her husband committed suicide after he had returned from Vietnam, and she's devoted her life to working with Iraq and Afghan veterans who are threatened by suicide. We have Michael Yule crawling up behind us here, and he did the Agent Orange workshop, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So, Press Secretary Gibbs said recently that those who are upset with Obama's performance should be drug tested. Is there anything in Obama's time as president so far that you're disappointed with?
Absolutely. We're disappointed with his bringing the troops into Afghanistan. We think he should be pulling the troops out of Afghanistan, not sending more troops. We think it should be a complete withdrawal of troops from Iraq, not leaving 50,000 so-called non-combatants there. We're very disappointed in what he's done with wars. So, on the other hand, of course, he's inherited a huge mess, right? And so I honestly think I voted for the guy, right? Even though I'm a Green member of the Green Party and independent stuff like that.
Me too.
Hey, cool. But because I think obviously the alternative, the mainstream alternative, would have been horrific. So I think he's an intelligent man. I think he's got, I think he's a humane person. I think he's just caught in a really bad scene. I would have hoped that he would have stood up to his moral convictions a little bit more in the office, particularly with the wars. That's my major concern. And that's, if I'm a monomaniac, that's my thing is a war. We want the wars to end and bring the troops home, get people support, reparations for those countries and all that kind of stuff. And he's not there yet, and we want him to be there. So that's my major disappointment.
All
with
right,
him.
just 1 second.
Sure.
Could you please pee into this cup?
I've done that before. I did that 40 years ago, right before I could get out of the Army. You want me to do it again? Okay, I'll play it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I was warned before. I'm looking into the camera now, and I see the image of Howard Zinn behind us, who's one of my heroes, and I've had the honor of meeting him a few times and talking to him. And so I guess I'd wrap this thing off by saying, if Howard Zinn were alive today, he would be on punk radio. Punk Patriot Radio. He would be on Punk Patriot Radio singing a cappella along with Billy Bragg and the rest of us trying to end these wars.